It's starting. We're live!
Hi.
Hello, Dulcimoon Facebook community. Surprise! It's a live talk. I am Erin May, and I'm one of the folks working with DJ to put on the Dulcimoon Festival. And today I'm here with Judy House. Judy, you want to introduce yourself?
Yes, I'm Judy House, live in Winston-Salem, North Carolina, and I was excited to be asked to join in the planning of this Dulcimoon Festival. It's going to be fantastic.
Yeah. And I'm excited because you're the educational director of the festival, which is something that a lot of our dulcimer festivals don't have on their staff. And the fact that this event is really working toward having an education direction and giving some guidance to the teachers and kind of building a cohesive thing, I think is really neat. So, I don't do you want to add anything about that?
Well, I'm excited about that because, education is my thing. And I think you're right. It's just like let's fill up some slots with some stuff. And I think our goals and objectives for this festival in particular are just going to enhance people's learning and give them more permission, so to speak, for creativity. And I think it's really going to be fun. Um, and as an instructor, looking at it from a totally different angle instead of what do I want to teach, uh, how can I tweak what I'm teaching to promote the creativity aspect of it instead of just giving them a piece of music and say, here's how you play it, let's go, measure by measure. Here's a song, what can we do to add some harmony or another piece to it or more chords and let them create. And I just think that's very liberating. Um, and something I'm always preaching. Tab is not the gospel, it's the guide.
Yes. Yes. I usually tell my students if you're playing what's on the paper, you're doing it wrong.
I like that.
Start there. That's good. It's helping you get somewhere, but like don't end there. That's not the stopping point of this process. So, but I also I have a couple of students who are participating in the First National Dulcimer Orchestra online, which
Yeah.
you are one of the directors of. So I'm excited to talk to you a little more about that. But they said to me, Erin, I don't know if you would do very well in the orchestra. You have to play what's written. And I said, well, I do have a classical music background. You wouldn't know it necessarily because, in many ways, I'm a very improvisational musician, and that I find that I love the old folk music and also making it have my own flair and flavor. But I learned a lot from being in some of the more structured musical environments where you do actually have to follow what's in the music. So there's value in that too.
Yep. And with an orchestra, like you're talking about, a- that's the initial, well, the initiation is, this is not a jam. In jams,
Right.
you're supposed to have fun and explore and create. And, Dulcimer people have a hard time doing that. They want to play what's all those little black dots, But in an orchestra where you've got multiple parts, you might have anywhere from 3 to 10 different parts. And if you try to start adding in a neat little run, you're going to be stepping on some other part's toes. And I just say, nothing makes me madder than for me to have a nice little run in my little part and somebody else takes it. So you have to play exactly what's on the page because somebody else might have that other little creative part. And so we really stress that.
Yeah. Well, and I think it does help you learn where the spaces are for those little runs. And then when you are in a jam or something and you hear that space empty, you have this idea of where to fill it. If you hear it full, you don't also fill it, right? So you start to have that experience of the give and take in a structured environment, which helps you learn it. I really do think it is a very valuable learning experience, even though it's not what I mostly do.
Well, and it's not for everybody. Just like some people don't enjoy jamming, they'd rather read and play exactly what's on the page.
Right.
Um, but also listening is a hard part of it. And when we're doing the First National Dulcimer Orchestra online, they don't get to hear anything except themselves and Kirk and me, or Mac and Melanie if we swap off
Right.
according to our schedule needs. But when we do get together, like last week we were at KMW, and it was like, listen to that bass run, and you'll know exactly when to come back in. Listen to the people playing your part. So learning to listen for these little runs or the holds or your parts is such an important part. I expect them to know the music when we get together live, but then we have to learn how to listen for each other.
Right.
You know, in a jam, you don't really listen to each other. I'm often down like this because I'm trying to create something and I can't hear myself, so I get down. What am I doing? Am I doing it right? Uh, yeah, it's totally different.
Yeah.
Uh, Opposite end of the spectrum, but we do have fun.
So, how did the first National Dulcimer Orchestra, how was it birthed? Where did it come from?
Well, it was really interesting. Kirk and I try to keep our ear to the ground and see what's going on and what needs there are. Um, and in 2021, that January, we were sitting down. We always try to sit every afternoon and kind of talk about our day and what we did and didn't do. And so we were sitting there and we were talking. We had started hearing a lot of conversation about isolation and people not having anyone to play with and people losing skills because they didn't have anyone to play with. But then,
Mm.
especially out west, the states are bigger, people are more scattered out, populations are not as thick as they are here on the East Coast. And
Yes.
even without the pandemic, there's a lot of dulcimer isolation out
Yeah.
west. And so we were just sitting there one night and thinking about that. And we already had our local orchestra, which we had been meeting on, live, and then the pandemic, so we went to Zoom. So we had, for almost a year, been working that way and figuring things out. And so Kirk said, what if, what if we just tried a national orchestra to see if there's any interest? And I said, yeah, that's a good idea. We could do it just during the pandemic or continue and see what happens. But it would also help people in isolation get together and learn some music and continue practicing and have some fun. So we went on Facebook and just threw out 3 dates and said, if you want to know more about this, come. Well, we did. We had 3 full houses. And it was really funny, Aaron. I thought we would have, seriously, maybe 20, maybe 30 people. We're
Uh-huh.
now almost at 150. And
Wow.
we had no idea. Um, it was pretty overwhelming. We didn't have enough slots in our Zoom, so we bought more.
Uh-huh.
Came and then we had our book because we had started doing multi-parts. We'd been doing multi-parts for a couple years because people were just tired of playing old Joe Clark the same way every time, and so we just started doing that and it became very popular, and so people were having us come to their festivals and teach a big multi-part class and putting both of us in there most of the time. And so we ended up with so much music, we said, well, heck, let's just put this in a book. So that was our Sum of the Parts book 1. And now we're working on book 3. But it's
Wow.
just like a sponge. People are just soaking this stuff up. They're thirsty
Yeah.
for something different. And so we asked them what night they wanted to meet. and everybody kind of voted, and we picked Tuesday night because that was the night that fit the most people. And the we have people all across the country and in Canada that join us every week.
Nice.
The Europeans were a little bit sad because we could not work them into that.
Yeah, the
And
time zones are challenging to get,
oh boy,
and
listen, hard
evening
enough
time here
across the
is middle of the night there.
That's right. So yeah, they were wanting to participate, but there was no way we could fit that in. And so we started, and it just keeps growing. We picked up a number last week at KMW. We performed, and people heard it and were interested, and so then people started asking to join, and so here we go again. So it's
Wow.
really it's been amazing, and the people are so um, committed to this. If they can't be there for some reason, they will email and let us know. I can't be there this week because, and that's good. I mean, we worry when people don't show up for several weeks
Right,
because
right.
they just are there and they come in early and chat before we get down to business. So
Yeah,
it's thrilling.
I love that.
It
I have
also, yeah, sorry.
I I I have several students who are involved in it and they just love it. They absolutely adore coming to the orchestra practices and working on the pieces of music. I talked to a couple of them yesterday and they were like, "I just love that one piece we're working on." They were so excited about the music. So, I love that. Anytime you see students who are talking about how excited they are about a project or a piece of music that they're working on, the thing that they're learning, it's like, yes, yes, that's what we're all trying to find, right? Is the thing that keeps us excited.
Exactly. Exactly. Yeah, somebody made a comment yesterday. I can't wait till we get into this book. I love this song. I want to play it. I can't decide which part I want to play. So, that's my reward is we've hooked them and we're reeling them in.
Yeah,
And they're
yeah.
just getting better and better. Just better and better players all the time. Um, and they get a lot of music education while we're learning these things, especially the classical pieces, because, there's the tempos and concentrate on dynamics and things like that you just play fast and loud in a jam, you know.
Yeah, I have
Oh,
to tell you that since people have become involved in that, I've heard a lot more students ask me, "What's the metronome marking for this tune when you play it up to tempo?" And I'm like, "I don't
right,
know." So I gotta go pull up my metronome and I figure out about what speed most people play these tunes at. But no one had ever asked me, "Where do I set the metronome to practice this?" Ever until the first National Dulcimer Orchestra. So I can tell you for sure that has brought a change in our community.
yeah. Isn't that funny?
Yeah,
Just little insignificant things that are important, that you don't think
right,
about often.
right.
Here they
Yeah,
bubble to the top. That's fun.
yeah.
Also, since we started FNDO, we have encouraged people that were able, that lived close together, to maybe take that music and play together, or if you're interested, start your own ensemble or orchestra. And so some of these groups are starting to pop up around the country. I know DJ had been doing the Berkeley Festival for a while, and
Hmm.
Carol Walker has just started one in New York. She
Nice.
lives in New Jersey, but she treks to New York. Sometimes they do it virtually. They alternate virtual and live. And so these little communities of music are popping up around the country. So I think that's exciting. It just gives us another way to express our thoughts and feelings, um, besides
Hmm.
just jams and everybody playing the same note at the same time.
Yeah, yeah. I know the Colorado Dulcimer Orchestra was started by Steve Yulberg, but when he moved away, two women took on that group and have kept that one going. So it's neat to see women also empowered to lead in those spaces, right? To be conductors and to bring the ensemble together and to learn those skills, because that's a whole other set of musical skills to learn how to kind of lead a group. And when they get to witness that, even in the online setting, and then practice bringing that into their own communities, that's really powerful too.
Yes, it is. And that's what Dulcimoon's all about.
That's right. It's that empowerment piece, right?
Right.
Shining a light on the women who are doing good work and empowering women to be leaders in their communities with the music as well. Yeah.
You know,
So,
I think the majority of the people that play dulcimer are women anyway. So,
yeah. Yes, it has been interesting to me because a lot of the teachers when I go to events are men, and a lot of the participants when I go to events are women. Um, and so there is this kind of interesting dichotomy between it seems like lots of women pick it up, but not a lot of women end up being in the role of teaching, and whether that's because of their own sort of insecurities that they don't have those skills to teach, or whether it's because it's just a thing they want as a hobby. They don't want to have to be in charge of anything. um, but a lot of the men move into those teacher positions, and so yeah, there could probably be some equalizing around
yeah.
that.
I think, you know, when the four of us started talking about this, so it was about a year ago,
Yeah,
and I can't help but think about what's happening in the United States right now with the Supreme Court, and here we are. I mean, it's just like how I don't even know what the word would be for that, but timely we are trying to promote these really strong dulcimer players in the hammered as well as mountain dulcimer arena at
yeah,
this very time when everybody's feeling, you know, this damper put on. And
yeah.
I just think that's amazing.
Yes, go DJ. DJ had that vision to
He
pull us
did.
together, and was able to look even a year ago and say, I think this is a need in our community to um, kind of spotlight this. And wow, I'm grateful for that.
I know. And who knew? Just so timely, so timely.
Yeah, yeah. So you had mentioned to me in some of our correspondence leading up to today some different women who have been important in our dulcimer community and help, I guess, kind of lead the way in different spaces. And when I go into conversations like this, I always feel a little bit hesitant to start naming names because I know we're missing people, right? I know there are lots of people, there are lots of women who are making a really big impact in the place that they are, and we don't necessarily always see it. And because we are attempting to shine a light on women in the community who are doing really good work, I think it's worth it to talk about some of them. So, I don't know. You want to just start kind of naming some of the people who you have noticed?
Just the ones right off the top of, you know, my head. Erin May, do you know her?
Uh,
Well, you know, when I think of certain people, I think of their little niche. And it seems like Erin May um, is carving out a wonderful niche that has long been needed by working with the children, trying to introduce the instrument. You know, for years I've heard we need more young people, we need more young people. But, you know, what can we do? Well, Erin May is doing it. And we should all bow down and to you.
aw.
This is
Yes. Well,
circulating.
my reason for starting to really focus in that area was the year I turned 30, and folks were still like, "Oh, look at the kids in our community," and it was me and Aaron O'Rourke and Jeff Hames, and I was like, "We're all in our 30s now." Like, I think we're gonna have to find some new kids, and so. Um, it just really motivated me to figure out where the places that kids are that we could start going. And by no means do I have any, um, I don't believe at all that I'm the only person out there who's doing a lot of work with kids. Um, but I probably already had some visibility within the community. So when I started really focusing in that area, um, it I already had some connections within our community. And so, but I say all the time, I mean, just like the dulcimer orchestras building in individual communities, there's no possible way for me to get to all the kids, you know? And so we need teachers reaching out, people who are willing to even just sit down with a kid or a grandkid or whatever, Sunday school kids, 4-H kids, and show them dulcimers. I think it can make a difference in their lives. It did for me.
It's going to be an enormous amount of work with a lot of people. There's a lot of kids out there, and there's just little pockets. Like in this area, we have something called jams, but getting
Yeah.
dulcimers into that instead of the guitars and fiddles and that kind of thing, I've tried on and off for years to encourage that. But Dulcimers in Schools, I co-wrote a book several years ago to try to
Wow.
help teachers, music teachers in schools use the dulcimer, especially on this side of the country, up and down the Appalachian Mountains.
Right.
That's our instrument. And, I'm not knocking ukuleles, but, ukuleles are small and they're reasonably priced. And so you see all these hordes of people learning to play the uke. Um, but why not the dulcimer? You know, it's,
Yeah, I've said for a while that Recorder gave schools a melody instrument. And some of them have, xylophones or bells or that kind of like a melody instrument in that. And and then they got the ukulele, so they got a chord instrument. But the magic of the dulcimer is that it's both. It's so easily accessible to learn three chords. You can play with a noter even bar chords and just play, open and third fret and fourth fret, and you've got your 1, 4, and 5 chords, and you can play hundreds and hundreds of songs. And you can play the melody on the melody string. So it's accessible to do both of those things, which they have had to have different instruments in their room for all. I'm like, yes, dulcimers, we need them.
I'm right there on the same page with you. Um, Yeah, so that's still a thing, that once in a while, occasionally, I've spoken twice at the North Carolina Music Teachers Conference and tried to push this. Um, but it just kind of falls by the wayside, or I'll go to a school and they've got a classroom full of dulcimers catching dust in a storage closet because
Oh,
it's just one more thing, and that's heartbreaking, and
it is.
the ukulele's fine. It is a chordal instrument, but you have to sing.
Yeah,
And not
yes, you
everybody
do.
wants to open their mouth and sing. So,
Hmm.
you know, I've said that
I
for a
mean, I
while.
was that kid. I was not much of a singer. Um, I actually only started singing when I started teaching kids because I realized that one, kids weren't going to judge me if I sang the wrong pitch. And then two, that they paid more attention when I sang to them than they did when I talked to them. But I wasn't a singer, and the dulcimer for me for a very long time was my melodic voice.
Mhm.
So that's a powerful thing.
Yes, go Dulcimer. So, so the whole Dulcimer community appreciates what you're doing, uh, and it can only help bring in those kids. Joe Collins just recently did a youth um, night,
Yeah.
and I was really impressed. And I believe you had two students in there, didn't you?
Mhm.
Two young
Mhm.
people, and they were dynamite
Yeah.
players, every one of them. So there's hope yet. So keep plugging in there. We'll see if we can drag some more people over to your side.
Exactly.
So another person I think of is Katie Moritz. Um, she has done she's just the woman at the hub of the quarantine, and
Right.
she hangs right in there, and she is an important part of that.
Yeah. Yeah,
And
for
I'm
sure.
just really proud of her that she has stuck with all those men and helped out
Indeed.
um,
Indeed.
with a really wonderful leadership role. And her name comes up quite often now because of her work with quarantine. And
Yeah.
so many thousands of people have reaped the benefits of quarantine since we've been in in this pandemic, and she's been an important part and should be recognized for that.
Yes, and I happen to know that she also has done a lot to help some of the other festivals, some of the like regional festivals put their festivals online and has spent a lot of time working in the background of those events where, her name doesn't necessarily appear, but she created systems for a lot of those festivals, and so she's working away in the background and sometimes isn't getting the spotlight for the work that she's doing, but she's been a very important part of the online community building around these Dulcimer festivals.
And Ashley Ernst is another one that spends a lot of time in the background. That
Yeah.
woman, she needs to be put on a pedestal for all the work that she has done, and a lot of people don't know. Even pulling together the women in the Dulcimer uh, world, having these meetings, and just the support she gives, and then the support with help desks at a lot of these virtual festivals. I've just been totally amazed with as busy as she is, cranking out these wonderful magazines and taking care of a huge farm, but yet she still has times to support what we're trying to do.
Yeah,
And
she's amazing.
that's amazing. Yeah.
I
And she,
feel so grateful that she took on the Dulcimer Players News magazine project. And I mean, it's a hard time to be running a print magazine, but she's done such an amazing job of just making sure that our community stays connected through this pandemic time and moving back into some things being online and some things being in person and just keeping tabs on all of that. And yeah, huge shout out to Ashley. I think if we could come up with like a Dulcimer community trophy, we we should definitely give one to Ashley Ernst.
absolutely. Absolutely. And so we could go on and on. Maybe another time we can spotlight some more.
Yeah.
I know there's probably
Another
a lot.
person who came to my mind right off was Debbie Porter, who started the Dulcimers for David project,
Oh,
which is
yeah.
actually one of the underlying pieces that has helped me help kids with dulcimers. Is like Debbie Porter's like, I've got dulcimers. Let's get kids to play them. Can you go find kids who need a dulcimer? And we'll give kids dulcimers. And that is all kind of following the legacy of David Schnoffer, who was influential in my early learning years. But Deb Porter has really, again, kind of done a lot of work in the background to make sure that people who want dulcimers have access to dulcimers.
Yeah, I keep hearing the same word, background, background, background. We need to become foreground, foreground.
Yes, and I think that, one of the things that the Dulcimoon community and group, I would love to see y'all who watch this later maybe post some of the women in the Dulcimer community who've influenced you, who've been influential in your journey. I know a lot of the little regional dulcimer clubs are headed up or kind of directed and organized by women, and those women are really influential in their region. And so I would love to just kind of start making a list of some more of the women who are really important and making a big difference
Yes,
in the
great idea.
world. Yeah, so cool. Well, Judy, we've spent a half hour just chatting away, and I would love to keep talking to you. But we decided we would try to keep these to about a half an hour. I just want to direct everyone to go to dulcimoon.com. We are now in the process of doing some fundraising to help kind of make sure that this event takes off without going in the hole from the beginning, right? We want to make sure that we can pay the women who are involved in the work fairly. And so we are in the middle of a donation campaign. And if you go to dulcimoon.com, the first button as you scroll down is a donate button, which takes you to the information about that. And there are some cool little prizes and things that we're giving to folks who are willing to donate and help us get this event off the ground. So I just encourage you to go check that out. And thank you for hanging out with us for a little while today. And thank you,
Absolutely.
Judy.
Thank you. And
We'll
we
see you
hope
all
to see
soon.
you in January.
Yay! Bye!
Bye.